Hey, all, glad you're here. I have had a lot of clients over the past years want to talk about procrastination around organizing and cleaning and those types of things. So, I want to share with you the work I've done around this subject and how much it's helped me. Like I said, the work that you do in any form, as far as thought work and allowing emotions, is going to filter into every other area of your life. So, this is yet another area of my life that I'm sure has helped my marriage and helped my family because decided to think differently. I chose to think differently than I was. So, I'll just tell you from the beginning, phase one, newlywed, stage with a baby. I really feel like part of my identity was having a very clean house. Like I made it a huge part of who I was. I was so literally obsessive about it. I think sometimes I would clean the kitchen floor 3 times a day or something because it was white linoleum awful in this apartment. It always looked dirty. And I had this thing in my head. I want to be a good wife and to be a good mom. I need my husband to come in home to a clean house after he's gone every day. And so I always went to bed with dishes in the dishwasher, the kitchen immaculate before going to bed. I was That really did make me feel proud and confident. I thought I was doing everything right. It was a part of my identity that I thought I was doing awesome, right? Because I had one baby that couldn't move or play or make messes pretty much. But um the part that started to get tricky was when I had more kids that joined the family and the older ones that did creative play because I really only wanted to allow my kids at the most screen time an hour a day. And so it became not immaculate. And my proud and confidence was waning, and sometimes it was awesome because I could get my stuff together. But other times it was not. And so then I would feel guilty. I'd feel self doubt. I'd feel embarrassed. The things that caused those feelings were thoughts like, this is a mess. The neighbor just saw my house looking like this. I can't stay on top of things. I need to be more organized. I wonder how blank keeps her house looking perfect all the time. Notice the comparison. And all of those types of thoughts made me feel guilty or self doubt or embarrassed. So they didn't serve me, as you're probably guessing. And even if they did, even if they were true, my house is a mess right now. Is it helpful? Well, I learned from this work that any thoughts that are beating yourself up, basically, or um, judging, comparing, criticizing yourself, any kind of negative self talk is going to actually create a negative result in your life. Because what happened to me was I started to judge myself, and then you start judging the other members of your family, and you're blaming them for your unhappiness because they are making a mess around the house. And then you feel guilty or self doubt or embarrassed, and it's their fault because they made the mess and they never helped clean it up. Right. In my mind, that was so then I'd feel irritation in my model. And my action line was I question who had made the mess, which, by the way, it was always Mr. Nobody. I'd storm around cleaning things up myself hastily. I would ask for help in a complaining way or in a way that was telling everyone that I had to do everything around here, pretty much. Okay. So this is how I was acting. And I didn't have thought work at this point in my life. My husband was still in medical school, but I had just noticed this is how I was behaving. And at one point, I read a blog of a mom. There were no podcasts or anything at this point. She was homeschooling and her kids, um, she had a baby and she kept reaching higher levels of frustration because while she was trying to help her older kids learn, her baby kept interfering in the way that babies do. And so after struggling with this for weeks, she got the impression from the spirit that the baby is the lesson. She learned that how she reacted to the baby in front of her kids in homeschool when things weren't going her way was the most important lesson she was teaching. that this really hit me as I was homeschooling at the time, my kids, and I was having the same issues. And I further broadened this lesson at that period in my life as far as the cleanliness of my house. I thought of now the way that I react to whether this house is clean or dirty is the most important lesson. I didn't have thought work, but I do remember just trying really hard to not be so negative anymore about housework and level of cleanliness and whether someone, spilled or not, whether it was a big deal to me. I took it down a notch and my anxiety went down just by deciding that it's okay to not have a perfectly clean house and just we're doing the best we can. And this made our house a more kind and pleasant place to live for everyone. So fast forward to now, I've now, I've been raising kids for 25 years, still in the process. Um, I think completely differently about the level of clean in my house. I want everyone in my house to create instead of consume. I want my kids to create instead of consume. I'd way rather have them making slime and the mess that ensues, or building a fort with blankets, or learning a new skill and making a mess than staring at a screen, which is so often what I notice when I walk into a clean house now. And I'm not trying not to judge, but I do notice that it's super clean, but everybody's staring at a screen at the same time. So I've discovered for me, creation is usually more messy and requires more to clean up. Is someone learning how to bake? Is someone learning how to sew? Consuming is not messy, not usually, but it's also not as satisfying either. We are just, when we're consuming, we're just consuming others' creations. Generally, I would rather have a house where creation is taking place. So I have a big main open room that everyone at my front door can see when they ring the doorbell. This is the main room of creation as well. That's where people do all their projects and things. Often people at the door will ring it and find school projects, homework, games on the table, dishes in the sink, toys from grandkids on my floor, music on the piano. Now, when people ring my door and see the mess, I think we live here. We create here. This is just the life I am choosing to create. No more guilt or self-doubt or embarrassment, because my feeling from we create here is one of happiness. I'm totally over the guilt, self-doubt, embarrassment. I do not get embarrassed. In fact, last night we went out to eat with some friends and then we came over after to play games. The house was clean, but the whole sink was full of dishes. I didn't even think about it till this morning. Oh, there were dishes in the sink. My son came in from skiing at 9 p.m. He dumped his skis all over the ground. He had his bag, his skis, his all the gear all over the ground, right by the front door. In the past, from guilt and embarrassment, I would say, pick that up, go bring it in the other room, clean that up right in front of the friends. I didn't even realize it was there till this morning when I almost tripped and fell. But I really like this. And I think you will too. If you're really anything that causes your level of anxiety to go down, and to be kinder to yourself and more compassionate, and to just see yourself as human and everybody else, it's such an easier way to live. Okay. So I'm totally over the guilt, self-doubt, and embarrassment. In fact, I really have got so good around this thought work around a clean house and it felt so freeing after so many years of the anxiety that it provoked in me, that my house for a while got really messy. And I think it was part of my journey in letting go of all those negative emotions. I've now come full circle. I've started caring more about the level of clean in my house again, because I love it to be clean, not because some so and so might see it or this might embarrass me. It's because I desire it. I think it's a godly characteristic, cleanliness. I really do. Like if you notice how clean our temples are, and you notice like our temple's closed right now for 2 weeks for cleaning. Like you look around and it's a beautiful, clean space. And you'll notice that a lot in if you read the scriptures and things like that, cleanliness is good, but and I love it to be clean. And I don't feel pressure around it anymore. And I set up routines that work. One of my kids does laundry during the week and another puts dishes away in the morning, and they take out the trash each week, and they help feed the animals. We all have jobs we do throughout the week, but we deep clean on Saturdays. So the floors, the bathrooms, changing sheets, the scrubbing bar stools, those things don't happen all week long. I sometimes I'll bring my friends over and I'm like, it's Friday, and I just shut the door of the rooms. I'm like, yeah, we clean tomorrow. But we even do this routine on Saturday when no one wants to. That's the most important part of making a routine. We do it even when we don't feel like it. We do things that we'd rather not do. And but once it's planned, the decision's made, it's way easier to get everyone on board. So the rest of the week, besides Saturday, we create. We try to pick up after ourselves mostly, but we let things slide a bit too. Having a routine that the family follows has been really helpful. There's not a decision fatigue about who's doing what and when it gets done and whose job is whose. Now, let's just talk about Saturdays. This is the day that I used to have a chart for my kids because it's extra, right? Things we usually don't do that they could check off. Like, this is how we clean the bathroom. This is how we vacuum, or this is what the closet looks like. So my kids right now that are left at home are 11 and 13, and they don't appreciate the checklist anymore. And so I've come up with a really easy way to remember how to clean up a bigger mess, or organizing a bigger mess, which is usually Saturday for us. This formula works so well. My kids, it has helped them so much. And it places everything in a category. So every part of the room is covered. So there are 4 Ds. Okay. Dirty clothes go in the laundry basket. Drawer. That's this pretty much everything should look hidden. The room should be clean. Everything should have a place. By the time you're done cleaning the room, the dirty clothes should be in the laundry basket. Everything else should be in a drawer or closet or a hidden spot. And the debris should be thrown away. There's only one category left. That's the last D, and that's donate it. If you can't find it in your heart to throw it away because you love it so much, but there is no room in a drawer or a space to keep it out of sight, then it's time to donate it. Just give it away. This makes the process so easy. Every time you pick up an item, you decide which category it is and you make a decision. So when we put in our pickleball court, we had an entire 2,000 square foot shop full of all my gardening stuff, all my husband's car stuff, because he's a car guy, a bunch of neighbors' stuff that were storing. Literally, we had dumpsters full of stuff, and we didn't have the space anymore. We had to move everything in that shop into our garage. So that's way smaller space, as you can imagine. And it made me sad because I liked and thought I needed all these things for gardening, and I thought they might be useful someday. But we just continued to throw away and give away. And it's hard to make these decisions, but I haven't missed one thing yet. I can't even remember what was in there, most of it, just shelves and shelves and shelves. I remember driving to the, what do you call it? Like, place where you can bring all your trash in a trailer and dump it. I can't remember the name, but anyway, you guys know what I'm talking about. But I remember just bringing loads of that. And I'm like, how did we accumulate all of this? So know that most of these areas, when you are organizing, you really will not, you won't miss it. You won't. But this pickleball space that we've made, this court, someone uses nearly every single day. My neighbors, my family, my friends. And it used to be this spot where every time I walked in there, I just felt overwhelmed with chaos. And maybe you feel like that in a space in your home. So it's just worth the throwing away. Bottom line, what do you want to create? I really wanted a pickleball court more than I wanted my gardening stuff. And I made that decision. I was reading one of Wendy Watson's books, and I can't figure out which book it was in. I was trying to find the actual source, but one thing that struck me, and maybe it's just personal revelation for me, that it could help you, is she said she has an office that is pretty disorganized. And she regularly does family history work in there. And she had shelves behind her that were messy as she would sit at her computer. And she was prompted to put a white curtain between she and the shelves as she was doing family history work and just shut them. And she felt like this was an idea that would give her greater access to the spirit as she did her family history work. Isn't that interesting? And as I read it, the first thing I loved was that her impression wasn't to spend hours and hours organizing the shelves, although that might be your impression. I'm not saying that's wrong, but it was okay to leave it as is and just make it a cleaner environment for her spirit and body to best function. So have your kids throw the stuff in their drawer. And maybe it is disorganized and maybe it doesn't look perfect, but the room that they're in and the space, their spirit and their soul feel better. We have a messy space all the time. We start to feel like our mind is messy as well. So she also said that at one point she was going out through all of her boxes in the garage that her husband, I don't know if he was a prophet and an apostle then, but he wanted her to clean it up. And so she went out and went to work, kind of like me with a shop. She didn't go to the temple for weeks as she was working through this. And she remembers the spirit telling her the temple attendance was more important than organization. So everything, she was just kind of given the hierarchy of needs and what God thinks about this. And so everything in this world we have really is on loan. No material things are ours anyway. So when I give it away, I'm like, this wasn't mine anyway. Really, none of it is. When we die, it's all gone. So we're just stewards over everything. If we love something, Heavenly Father wants us to have it. He wants it to be in our life. If it is causing a ton of like stress or more anxiety every time you look at it, it's time to clean it up and feel better. I think it helps us in every way, spiritually, emotionally, physically, uh, mentally, if we have a cleaner space. So each phase of this life will be different, and each of us are different, and we'll have different stewardships. And so, where are you at? And the spirit can direct you what's important right now for your spirit, for your soul. So, what I've learned is that beating myself up around this subject or tearing myself down with negative self talk about anything is, including the level of clean, is will not make me any cleaner. It always has the result of giving up, sitting around, scrolling social media, not doing what I want to do. And it's never a good result. Say, okay, so every bit of shame or blame, either shame that I'm not doing, I'm not measuring up, or blame of you made this mess and it's your fault, will make the situation worse. I have lots of experience with this, as do many of my clients. Ask the spirit to direct you in all things, including the level of clean right now in your life. Wendy Watson got 2 different revelations in relation to cleanliness, and we can too. God loves us all the same. God's no respecter of persons. You can ask and receive, just like Wendy Watson or the prophet or anybody else. We all can receive. I am slowly but surely being prompted to have my children and husband help me when possible to clean up and make my home a level of clean that's more organized, and just a little by little. Sometimes it's just closing a door, other times it's categorizing dirty clothes, drawer, keep and have it hidden away, debris, throw it away or donate it. I know it's hard to throw away or donate. In fact, just recently, I started my seedlings. And you guys know I love to grow 2,000 seedlings every time this time of year. I love to smell dirt in the middle of winter. It just makes my heart happy, especially when it's so snowy and cold out. Anyway, I started my seedlings and I often put my seeds in each tray. And then they start to grow. And I've put more seeds in than I have room. So it's much better to have one healthy plant per cube than many competing for nutrients and light. And so my least favorite job is to thin all my little growing babies. But the result is what I want. The result is the amount of plants that I want, that I truly do need, and the best conditions for health and growth and creation. So if I think of that as far as all my material possessions, they are only mine on loan. I don't need all these things if they're creating more chaos, if they're going to take from my health and growth and creation. I won't even notice or miss them almost all the time. And if I do, pretty sure I can go buy another one. I want to create an environment of simplicity and order with only my favorite things and things I'm working on. I allow my kids and husband autonomy to create the environment they want in their spaces. I think that's also really important. We have our business and others' business and God's business. It's really good to just stay in our business. I've coached a lot on, particularly on with couples on this subject. And my husband, I hate how he has the garage. It's terrible. It's so disorganized. It's such a mess. And that's just a job for you to do some thought work around. If that's his space and that's how he likes to keep his garage, then it's your work to feel loving or compassionate or sympathetic or kind around the way he keeps his garage because it's his space. And I think we all need our space to do what we want to do. Sometimes my kids' spaces, like teenagers, I just have to walk by and shut the door because it's so awful. It's even stinky, like all the things, but it's not worth really super negative emotion around for me. And so I would rather that I just shut the door, and almost always they get through that phase and they're good to go. So they make their choices, and I really do give them autonomy in their space. So that's how I have really come full circle around the level of cleanliness in my house. And it's helped me a ton. And if you're anything like me in almost all these areas, you can expect miracles because when you're trying to go from, I have to have a perfectly clean house, or I am a bad person or a bad mother or a bad wife, to it's all great and let everyone have their own space and they can create what they want and they'll figure it out. And this is their journey. That's a lot of work in there, a lot of work that I've done, a lot of days to get to this spot where I feel like I'm in a great spot around level of cleanliness in my house. And do the work if you want to get there. If you don't want to have such anxiety or feelings like embarrassment or self-doubt around this, seek and expect miracles. Pray for Heavenly Father's help. Do just a little bit every day that will help you improve the situation. If it's 5 minutes, sometimes you say, I'm just going to work 5 minutes a day on this area and keep your promises to yourself. If you want self-confidence, keep promises to yourself. So if you say you're going to do 5 minutes, even if you don't feel like it, you do 5 minutes. And then guess what? Often you'll realize it's been 7 minutes, 8 minutes. I kind of want to do this. I want to do that. And it turns into 15 minutes, maybe a half hour, and it gets done or quicker than you thought it would. But either way, it's a win. If you did your 5 minutes, you won. If you end up sitting there and making big progress in 2 hours, you won. Either way, you won. Either way, don't shame yourself. Don't beat yourself up about it. Just do your 5 minutes or whatever you feel like you have the ability and capacity to do today and call it a win. All right, guys, we'll talk to you next week. Hope this was helpful to some of you.